finished the next corner here where I've worked the V in the three single crochets into the middle 3 stitches from the previous row, and then into the corner single there we're going to work 2 V stitches. So we've got 1 and then a chain in between for the corner, and we do the second V into that same chain space, into the same single, and then skip that first stitch that you can see, work the 3 singles into the top of the 3 back post half doubles, and then straight over again into the next single and work a V, and we'll just carry on all the way around this row, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. You've worked your final 3rd single of the 3 singles that sit in the back post half doubles. We're just going to join with a slip stitch into that first V stitch, snip off the yarn, pull through and fasten off. So we're now ready for row 29. 29 we're going to work both popcorn stitches and puff stitches, alternate as we go along. I'm going to use, for this row, I'm going to use a purple colour, but if you're following the original colour scheme that I've used, I would be using the sunshine yellow. So with the purple, I'm going to join the yarn onto the hook with a slip knot, sorry, and we're going to start in the corner space between the 2 V stitches, and into that space there we're going to work 2 puff stitches. We're just doing a normal puff stitch, which is bringing up the 3 loops from the space, and we're going to yarn over and pull through them all at the same time, so they're slightly different to the long puff stitches that we've done previously. So yarn over into the space, pick up a loop, yarn over into the space, pick up a loop twice, yarn over into the space and pick up a loop. We're going to yarn over there and pull through all of those loops. Chain 1 to fasten off the puff stitch and chain 1 for the corner stitch. We're now going to do another puff stitch into that same space, 1, 2 and 3, yarn over and pull through all of the stitches plus the chain 1 to fasten off the stitch. We go now into the first V of this side, and we're going to work a popcorn in that stitch. So the popcorn is 4 doubles, 2, 3 and 4, and this is the one where we take the hook out, put it into the top of that first stitch, pick up the loop and pull it through, and a chain 1 to fasten off the stitch. We do a chain 1 again. We're going to skip this first single here, and we're going to do a puff stitch into the next one, 1, 2 and 3, yarn over, pull through all the loops, chain 1 to fasten off the puff stitch and a chain 1. We're now going to work into this next V stitch, so we're going to skip the last single, we're going to skip the first half of this V stitch, we're going to work a popcorn into this next V stitch. So we've got the 4 stitches there into the top of the first one, pick up that loop, pull it through, chain 1 to fasten off the popcorn, and then a chain 1. Skip the first single, work a puff stitch into the second, chain 1 to fasten off the puff stitch, chain 1, and then into this next V we're going to work a popcorn. So we'll work this all the way along this row to the next corner, and then in the corner we'll have a popcorn in this first V. We've got the 2 puffs in the corner with the chain 1 in between. We've got a popcorn in the first V, a chain 1, we've got the puff stitch, a chain 1, we do a popcorn into the next V. We're going to work exactly the same all the way along this row. So if you want to pause the video and carry on working, I'll meet you when we get to the next corner. Round to the next corner where we've done a puff stitch into the middle single here with the chain 1, a chain 1 in between, and then we're going to work the popcorn into the first V. 1, 2, 3 and 4, pull through the loop, chain 1 to fasten off, chain 1, and then into this corner space here between the 2 V's we're going to do the 2 puff stitches, 2 and 3 with a chain 1 and then another puff into that same space, and then we're going to work a popcorn into the first V of this next side. Two, 3 and 4, and then we just work this side exactly the same as the first side. We're going to do a puff stitch into the middle single there with a chain in between, and then we go to the puff stitch that's going to sit in the V. So we're going to work exactly the same all the way around on all 4 sides. We've got popcorn, chain, puff stitch, chain, popcorn. Don't worry about the gaps that we've got here, we're going to fill those in on the next row. The end of the row we're going to just work the chain stitch and then join into the top of that first puff stitch with a slip stitch. We're going to snip off the yarn, pull through and fasten off. That completes row 29. For row 30 we're going to work into the stitches again from row 28. So where we've got the green stitches that we didn't work into, which is the side of the V, and there's a single at either side of the single where we've used the puff stitch. We're going to work into all of those stitches. The row that we're going to work next is this one here that was done in the pale mustard, and as you can see we're working around the popcorns and the puffs to enclose the stitches. So I'm going to start, for this one I'm using a cream, but on the previous one I used the pale mustard. So we're going to start as always in the corner, and it's the usual 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles, and these are going to sit in between the 2 puff stitches in the space that we made there. So we've got the first double second double, chain 1 and another 2 doubles. We're now going to work a front post single around the first puff stitch. So we just pick up the loop, yarn over and pull through. We're going to work a double into this first side of the V-stitch that's on either side of the popcorn. So just go in between the 2 stitches there. Make sure that you work over the chain that's in between the 2 stitches with a double. We're going to front post single around the popcorn, and then again we're going to work into the second half of the V-stitch here. So just yarn over into the stitch, but make sure that you've picked the loop up over the chain stitch that was between the 2 stitches there. Finish off the double. We now do a double into the first skipped single that's before the puff stitch in exactly the same way, and then we do a front post single around the puff stitch. So we've now got the 2 doubles, a chain and 2 doubles in the corner. We've worked a front post single around the puff stitch. We've worked the double into the top of the V-stitch, a front post single around the popcorn, a regular double into the top of the V-stitch and a double into that first single, a front post single around the puff stitch, and then we're going to work a double into the next single, the skipped one from the previous row, a double into the top of the V-stitch, a front post single around the popcorn, a double into the second half of the V-stitch, just do that again, a double into the first of the skipped singles, a front post single around the puff stitch, a double into that next single and a double into the V, front post single around the popcorn, a double into the V, a double into the single, a front post single around the puff stitch. So you can see there that we've enclosed the stitches all the way along, that we've got a flower, a flower bud, a flower, a flower bud, and we've got 2 singles in between each with a front post single. We've got the 2 doubles in between and then a front post single around each of the popcorns and the puff stitches. We're going to work all the way along exactly the same way, a double in the single, a double into the top of the V, a front post single around the popcorn, a double into the V-stitch, a double into the single, a front post single around the puff stitch, a double into the single, a double into the V-stitch. So as long as you've got the 2 stitches in between and the front post single around each of the flowers, you may want to pause the video now and work to the end of the row. I'll catch you when we get to the end. We've come to the end of this side where I've done a front post single around that last popcorn there, we've got the other half of the V sitting here. We're going to work a double into that stitch. We're going to work a front post single around the last popcorn, and then we're going to work the 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles into the corner, go straight into the front post single around the puff stitch, a double into that first half of the V stitch there, a front post single around the popcorn, and then we go back to the pattern repeat of the 2 doubles, single front post around the puff stitch, and then 2 doubles, single front post around the popcorn, and then 2 doubles again. So I'll let you carry on and work all 4 sides of this row, and I'll see you for the beginning of the next row. Reach the end of this row. Again, we're going to, I've done the single front post around the popcorn. I'm going to work the last double into the V stitch, and then front post single around that last puff stitch, and we're going to join as always with a slip stitch into the first stitch, pull the yarn through and fasten off. The next 2 rows are going to be quite simple, that are not going to take too much concentration. The first row is a row of singles. We're going to work a single into each stitch. I'm using a paler purple colour for this row. Slip stitch onto the hook, into the chain space between the 2 sets of doubles for the corner. We're going to just standing single to start, 2 chain and another single into that same space. Skip that first stitch and then just work 1 single into each and every stitch all the way along down to the next corner, where we're just going to again work 1 single, 2 chain and 1 single in the corner space, and then carry on with the 1 single into each and every stitch. If you're enjoying the videos, please feel free to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, and if you also hit the bell symbol, it will let you know each time a new video is uploaded. You can save all of these videos into a playlist. Feel free to share the links. And if you've got any problems, any questions, feel free to just pop a comment under the video, or if you've joined the Facebook group from the link that's under each of the videos in the description, just pop a question there and I'll do my best to answer any queries that you've got. So I'll let you pause the video once again until you've worked your singles all the way around with the 2 in the corner with a chain a chain 2 in between, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Reached the end of this row and joined with a slip stitch into the first single of the corner, and then fasten off the yarn. The very last row of this round again is a nice easy one. We're going to work 2 doubles into the corner space, followed by chain 1 and another 2 doubles into that same space. We're now just going to work a back post double around each of the singles from the last row. So again, it's a nice easy row to finish off this part of the crochet along, and we work the back post around every stitch. We don't skip any stitches at the beginning. When you get to the corners, into that corner space, you just work 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles, and then work a back post double around each of the singles all the way along the row. I'll just show the original blanket in the colours that I've used there, and as you can see, the last row that I've done is in white. The previous one I did in the peach colour. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you'll come back for the next part, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.